Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome once again to Changing the Questions, the show where we take a question from professional wrestling each episode and do our best to answer it. My name is Paul Laporte. Joining me for this episode is my co-host Mike Miner.
How's it going, guys? Kind of a somber subject.
Yeah, this is one that I wasn't even sure that we were going to do, but at Changing the Questions, we have not shied away from controversial subjects. And this is legitimately a question that is being asked, especially now. The question that we are looking at today is, could WWE have done more to save Chyna? Now, obviously, if you've been paying attention to the news for the past week, Chyna Lore tragically passed away at the age of 45.
Very suddenly, as well.
We covered it a couple different times on the site. Both you and I were very big fans of her.
Yeah.
Respected the hell out of her, and we even did a Time Warp on her. I think I did that with Peruzzi.
Yeah, I was super bummed I missed that one.
Yeah,
and it's
right
when I was leaving too that day.
And in that episode, we kind of just pointed out the fact that she did not get the recognition she deserves. As a matter of fact, earlier that day before I heard the news, I was discussing with my wife whether or not Chyna would ever get into the Hall of Fame.
Now she will.
She definitely will. But one of the things that I am hearing a lot coming from people who were fans of professional wrestling, people are angry. They are angry that Chyna didn't get the credit, the recognition from WWE, and some people feel that WWE just simply ignored her while she was going through these problems and effectively just kind of allowed her to spiral out of control. This is not going to be kind of our usual episode where like one of us picks a point and one picks a counterpoint and we just kind of bat it back and forth because it's kind of too serious of a topic to play devil's advocate for, I guess.
Yeah,
and we're just going to kind of...
I can't see us being fluid on both sides of this thing.
Yeah.
I mean, the most I can say on my end is, was it WWE's responsibility? No. She's an adult. She was an adult. She could have controlled her own... She could have controlled her own, situations and everything, but you know as well as I do that addiction is not something that is...
It's a disease.
Yeah, it's a disease.
It's not a choice. It is a disease. That's the question is, and honestly, we don't know the cause of death yet. It's still entirely possible that this is, and honestly, it doesn't really matter in terms of mourning her, but in terms of, I guess, looking at this question, it's entirely possible that it could have been something completely unrelated to any other issue she was having at all. Sometimes people just die, and that sucks.
Yeah.
But if we're going with more, not necessarily maybe saving her life, but just kind of getting her back on the right track, a lot of people feel that because of Triple H's relationship with Stephanie McMahon, that Chyna was kind of blackballed from WWE, and then she took her own path, and people are gonna point to her work in the adult industry, which I refuse to, because I refuse to... That's basically acknowledging that everybody who gets in that industry gets in there for only because they're having personal problems, and that's not it. Maybe she just... From what I understand, she enjoyed that part of her life. Like, she didn't need the money. She was doing it because she wanted to. That's not really a subject here, but she had drug problems.
Choice. I mean...
The drug problems are kind of more of a thing because WWE has shown in the past that they are willing to help their former and present athletes get clean and go to facilities.
They sent out a mass mailing just maybe within the last 6-7 years of letters to past talent.
Yeah.
That's where Billy Graham got very upset because they sent these letters out saying, if you need rehab, we can give you rehab. If I'm remembering, correctly.
No, WWE basically has a policy of they will pay for the rehab for anyone who used to work for them,
and it's more of a
cover your ass,
preemptive strike. I guess so.
It's a cover your ass thing because if somebody dies of drug issues under that, even worked for WWE for a month. It still makes them
look at all the lawsuits now with the concussion-based stuff.
Right,
so,
exactly.
I mean, if they could prevent that, they would prevent that.
Yeah.
But
so she's an adult. She makes her own decisions, obviously, yes. also the fact that it wasn't like Triple H started dating and then married Stephanie and then she was like immediately tossed out. Like, she had her own career for a few years beyond that.
2001 is when she left. It was not so long. Within a couple of months after winning the women's championship at WrestleMania.
So
17.
the thing is we don't necessarily know how much WWE tried to reach out to her.
Yeah, it's...
And that's the problem, is that we're not operating with full information, so to answer this question, we don't really know.
But that can be kind of dangerous, so we don't want to assume anything, but at the same time, given the circumstances and how distant she's been from this company since 2001, it's hard to say, there wasn't some kind of grudge held.
You know what, I really don't believe...
Or maybe there's not even a grudge. Maybe it's just one of those things where, she's gone and they just didn't want to have to deal with the problem after that.
I don't believe that there was a grudge that was held. However, right around the time she left is, within a few years is when WWE started moving towards a more family-friendly product and started being more of a PG rating. So I think WWE wanted to distance themselves from a former employee who has now put themselves on the extreme opposite end of that spectrum.
But you know what? That whole PG thing started up in maybe 2007, 2008.
Yeah,
it was that long.
You're right.
I mean, for them to bring somebody like Sable back just a couple of years after Chyna left, they had problems with Sable as well. And they brought her back. Chyna, like you said, but that was a bit down the line. She got her and Sean Waltman. Sean Waltman, he was doing stuff with the company the last bunch of years too. He had the tape with Chyna, and they let him back. So it's kind of a double standard in that regard. But Chyna voluntarily, did the adult films, and I just think that's kind of what got her in a way, but maybe it was an excuse. I think more than anything it was kind of an excuse. They didn't need to acknowledge that, but I don't know. I think they could have done a little bit more to help her, reach out to her, see if she was okay. I mean, you look at the pictures of her at conventions, and it's great because the fans were there to see her.
Yeah.
Mick Foley, very, very...
Yeah, there were still a lot of people in the industry who were very, very close to her and very friendly with her.
Yeah.
And were very devastated by this loss.
I know Foley was, he had her at his house not too long ago. Back in November, I want to say.
Right.
But she still had friends in the industry, in the professional wrestling industry, and they didn't have a bad thing to say about her. They know she had things going on, but, they understood she was a person as well. But at the end of the day, outside of Mick Foley reaching out to her and having her come over as an old friend to his house, she was kind of a lonely person at that point. She went to these conventions. Her fans were her family, she said. And, it's being in that situation where you're that lonely, it takes its toll on you. You try to deal with it in any way you can that you feel is going to help. I think she was just at that point where, she was trying to reach out to get some, human interaction of some sort. I don't know. It's tough to say. I think WWE could have helped. That was her family for quite a long time. She had issues as a teenager with her own family. Right. WWE was her family for years.
Right.
And to be basically exiled from
Forced
that
out,
family
yeah.
is rough. I mean, you go from one family to the next, and where's your place in this world at that point?
That's a really good point.
She was in the adult film industry, and she had a handful of films, and it's just another. It was kind of like she was trying to get into some kind of family to to keep that human interaction. I mean, socially, humans are social creatures.
Yeah.
And if you don't get that feedback and that love from people, then you're not going to be long for this world, I guess. Unfortunately, she wasn't.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, hindsight's always 20/20.
Yeah, I've said that before.
Yeah.
And like I've said before, I'm tired of waking up at 3:30 in the morning before I have to go to work and reading about somebody in this industry dying. I'm tired of it.
Yeah.
I'm tired of having to put articles up on the website first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's heartbreaking. It's, you've seen these people for years and they're dying at such a young age. And it's like, for a little while, I guess that was being trumped for the most part, but there's been a spat of deaths since the beginning of this year. Hayabusa,
Balls Mahoney,
Axel Rotten,
Yeah.
Mulligan.
Yeah.
But, his was more to do with old age. But still, I mean, it's tough seeing these people.
Yeah, most people don't make it to Blackjack Mulligan's age, it feels like. Yeah, I mean, like, honestly, I think
Chyna was heartbreaking, man.
It was
almost as much as
it's one of those.
More.
I think Chyna's death is one of those things where both sides were stubborn.
Yeah,
and if either side had just been like, you know what, fuck it, like, just, I'm done with this. I need help, or fuck it, you need help. We'll get you whatever help you need. I think. Then it would, and honestly, I think maybe another 5-10 years that happens, but that she didn't have enough time. So
it's
either way, it's just a really tragic loss. And I mean, like I said, she's going to get the recognition she deserves now.
But you know what? It shouldn't have been after she died.
No, it shouldn't. Yeah, this should not be her Hall of Fame induction. Should not be posthumous. It should not. I think, the respect she's getting should not be after the fact. But it is one of those things. It's like, you mentioned family. It's like, you have a falling out with a friend or a family member who is gotten into drugs or gotten into a lifestyle that you don't agree with, and then they're gone. And you can't repair what happens.
And you can only think about what you could have done, what you could have done, and
so
what you should have done.
Honestly, like, again, could WWE have done more? Maybe, but Chyna could have done more too.
Yeah,
like it's a double-edged sword.
I think if they reached out to her, I think she would have been much more willing to go that way.
Again, though, like I think if she reached to them and said, "Listen, I have a problem. I need help," I don't think WWE would have been like, "Fuck you, go away."
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So I don't
know if she really felt like she could have done that.
Yeah,
because she had issues with Triple H. Maybe she had issues with Stephanie. I don't know. Is that all speculation? Do we have a verification on that?
Yeah,
I don't know. It's been rumored that way for years. But as far as Chyna goes, this could have been prevented.
Right.
Just like many deaths in the professional wrestling industry. Hers is a lot more heartbreaking, it seems, because she was such a standout at her time, and
she is probably the most important women's wrestler ever.
And I mentioned
she's probably the most important woman ever.
Probably the most important woman ever.
Probably.
But I have mentioned it twice in the last week. It seems like her life parallels her professional wrestling career. She was here, and then she was gone, just like that. Eerie, very eerie, and it's just heartbreaking. And when are we going to get past this point where we acknowledge a person for their contributions to this industry before they die?
Yeah.
It's I don't know. It's
a sad situation all around, and like I said, it's hindsight's 2020. It doesn't really matter. It's you can't go back and change it. All we can do is just look back at the time that she was here and the memories that she did give, and look at the legacy she left behind.
I mean, you know what? I also mentioned, I think we might go a little long on this. It's up to you.
I mean, if there's more you have to say...
it's the thing I mentioned as well is, they offer drug rehab. They offer impact testing. Can they offer some kind of, psychiatry, psychology? Can they offer something?
I mean, I'm sure counseling comes with some of those things, too.
I don't know. I mean, it would certainly help. It's stressful being on the road that many days a year. You're away from your own family. And like I said, she probably didn't really have family she could rely on when she was out of that industry. She was more of a stand-up on her own kind of person. So it possibly could have helped.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Being exiled the way she was is kind of tough.
Yeah, like I said, it's tough, but it partially, I think, was self-imposed.
Definitely. I mean,
so
I
how
think,
can you say that they couldn't do more or whatever when like I said, I genuinely do believe that if China just went to him and said, "Listen, I have a problem, I need help," whether it was a drug problem or just a mental issue or whatever, I honestly think that regardless of what, because again, this is just going back to the whole, it looks bad if somebody who worked for them, especially China, who is one of the most visible and influential people, who isn't under their watchful eye, I guess.
You know what? And this is going to sound messed up. I just think that WWE, the officials there, probably breathed a little bit of a sigh of relief when she died.
I think so.
I think they were sad about it. But do you think they
so.
really would have let her in the Hall of Fame before?
I do. I
really
think
do?
at some point they would have, but I think it would have.
When she was a little bit older, maybe a little bit calmer,
and maybe a little bit cleaner or in a better space in her head. Whatever the issue is. But the thing is
maybe
that
not so alone, I guess.
I think the reason that WWE didn't is for the simple fact that you're giving somebody who you have no control over a live mic.
Yeah, there you go.
And
I was going to mention that as well.
And I think if Chyna had shown more of a history of kind of having herself more together and being a little bit more predictable,
a bit more restraint, I suppose,
then I think, yes, they would have. But the fact of the matter is that they couldn't filter her, and they're giving her a live microphone.
Yeah.
They're giving her a stage.
That's
one of the biggest
exactly
stages
what I was
that
going to mention.
So, and I know I refuse to. Like I said, there are people who are like that kind of like have that mentality of like the offices or Stephanie herself breathe. No, because that just brings all the attention back to them. Anyone dying who worked for them is never going to be a good thing, a positive thing publicity wise for them. So no, I don't think so. Especially because, like I said, probably a lot of people knew her and liked her. So
I guess the positive of all this is the same thing with Eddie Guerrero. The same thing.
That'll be more of a close watch, hopefully, on people like that.
The same thing with Nowinski.
Yeah.
It's just Bret Hart. It was a different time back then. The only unfortunate part is the people during that time, the performers during that time, they weren't getting the attention that the performers now are getting. They're not getting the close eye. They're not getting the care that the performers now are getting. The best they're doing now is saying, look, here's rehab if you need it. Take it or leave it, I guess. Like I said, psychiatry would help, perhaps, if they offered that. I don't know, the company can't do everything. They can't pay for everything, but I mean, those two things would certainly help a lot. It's unfortunate that we're probably going to go through another couple of years of potentially of these early deaths before these performers start, longer lives.
That's the thing is, I think
it's just WWE. I mean, who's to say that the indies, a lot of well-known indie stars aren't going to die early because it's not nearly as regulated as a WWE.
Yeah, but it's weird because indie guys just tend not to. There aren't a lot of indie people. I mean, there's some, obviously. Chris Travis just passed away, but that was
a couple of years ago. Look at Trent Acid.
I mean, it happens, but it doesn't seem... maybe it's just because WWE employs so many people, or people in the indies just kind of get forgotten about after a while, but
yeah.
I think that schedule and that life, and the fact that you get a bunch of money from WWE, that just leads to more problems like this. I don't know. But I do agree with you. I think that, probably within the next generation, people who are just starting now, people like Sasha Banks, like Bayley, Tyler Breeze, he's been in for a little bit, but those people, they stand a much better chance of living longer and healthier lives because they have these restrictions and these tests in place that people of the generation of Chyna and before didn't have.
Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens. Yeah. I mean, even now,
Daniel Bryan, if Daniel Bryan was around 10 years ago, he'd still be wrestling.
Yeah, I mean, exactly.
The
guy probably...
Maybe 10, definitely 15.
I mean, you look
he would still be wrestling.
Yeah, you look at the recent drug suspensions of Connor and Adam Rose. I'm not going to speculate on, what they got suspended over. Adam Rose says, my doctor was furious about my suspension because I did everything legally and under my doctor's care. But I'd rather, have somebody still alive, albeit suspended, maybe even fired. I'd rather have them still alive,
right,
and them overreaching a bit than to have them dead in a couple of years. I don't want them to be suspended over something that was overreached. Don't get me wrong, but if I had a choice, I'd rather have them be overprotective than to not. Than to be too loose with
exactly.
it.
The restrictions in place are good. I don't think anybody can disagree. Yeah, okay, so I don't get to see Daniel Bryan wrestle Shinsuke Nakamura, but at least he has a decent chance of making it to his 70s and 80s.
Hey, I get
which
to watch
I'm way cooler with.
I get to watch him on Total Divas and Total Bellas.
All right.
Well, then again, I don't really.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to wrap it up for us. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Definitely a heavier subject than we cover normally. If you want to check out more stuff from us, you can head on over to our website, changingtheqs.com. That's changingtheqs.com. If you want to follow us on Twitter, you can do the same thing. Just follow us at changingtheqs. Be sure to check out all of our other shows that we have on Mondays. We have Time Warp Tuesdays, and Thursdays we have Changing the Questions. Wednesdays we have Booking About a Wrestler. And on Fridays we have Let's Play TEW. Also, all of our non-video shows are now available on iTunes. Just search for Changing the Questions, Time Warp, or Booking About a Wrestler. There, you'll be able to get all of those episodes as they come out, as well as all of our back episodes. So if you want to go on a nice binge run of our almost 100-episode catalog at this point for all of our shows, you can do that on iTunes, or all of those are available on our webpage as well. Be sure to like us on Facebook. You just search for Changing the Questions there. If you want to send us a good old-fashioned email, you can do so at changingthequestions@gmail.com. That is going to wrap it up for this episode. For my partner, Mike Miner.
Thanks for sticking with us, guys. An extra long episode, I suppose. Thank you.
My name is Paul Laporte, and we'll see you again soon. Goodbye.
Bye.